Welcome to the Success Rate. I'm Thuli Magubane, and today we are having a guest that is hot in the kitchen. And they always say that, if you can't take the heat in the kitchen, you must get out. And he's managed to remain in the kitchen for most of his life. I would probably say maybe 40 years, but he's going to tell us how long he's been in the kitchen. You know Chef Benny, if you've watched MasterChef SA. If you watch the Braai Master, you definitely have seen him. If you're one of those lucky individuals who's actually enjoyed his cooking, you know that he has some really unique dishes, and he always brings a unique taste to some of traditional dishes. Chef Benny, welcome.
Hey.
It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah.
And as I said, you've been in the kitchen for over 40 years. Started cooking at a very young age.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot, right?
It does.
Yeah. It all started, I think, when I was around 8.
Yes.
And it didn't, look like it was going to be something that I'd do for a long time. But I think the interest, was there when I was 8, when my mom decided to start her own business. So I used to follow her around and, learn a couple of tricks. But it was mainly doing those tedious chores that she wouldn't want to do, like
So
peeling stuff.
you started off as a informal sous chef for your mom.
Yes, no, most definitely. Yeah. I would follow her around, but, little did I know that I was, just, building my foundation on cooking at that age,
So if you had to choose a vegetable that you would be, which vegetable would you choose and why?
Onion.
Why onion? You make people cry.
That too. But, I think it's the most used ingredient in cooking,
yes.
and it's so versatile. But it features in a lot of dishes as a foundation, as a
Yes.
base
Yeah.
for cooking. So the importance of having onions as a starter in building flavors and taste. I think I would go for that. I think it's the most important.
So
next
what
to
does
garlic.
it say about you?
I
You as the onion.
looking at my life in retrospect. In terms of influence, I've influenced a lot of people, and this I get every time I travel. I do my talks, whether it's at schools or whether I'm doing demonstrations, but wherever I'm addressing a crowd, or even when I'm working in judging, I get a lot of people saying, you inspired me to do this, and I like how you do this and that and that. So I would like to think of myself as one of those ingredients in people's foundations, in building their own profile.
I like that.
So yeah.
So your mom started a fed cook business around Alexandra.
Yeah.
And I mean, fed cooks are so common in every township. So what made hers so special?
So, she figured she's a people's person. So she started out as, she didn't finish school. I think she went up to standard 2, which is grade 4 now.
Yes.
Yeah, and then she had to go work and stuff. So she was a cleaner at a toy shop in Randburg, and she wasn't happy in her role. And she's like, you know what? I want to do something that I enjoy doing. And cooking was one of those things that she was very comfortable doing. And then she started Kamakwinya. And, that went on to something else. There was an opportunity in Midrand at a convention center where they offered, cooking lessons and a certification after you complete, the 9 months. And then she went for that just to, get the basics. And then after that, then she got on to cooking lunch for a few of the factories that were around Wynberg at that time. So a friend of hers, like, you know what, we don't like our canteen food, and I know that you can cook.
Yes.
So maybe come and let's see, what the guys would, say. And obviously they wanted, like, our type of food, like papa and stew and sometimes, a grilled steak and all of that. And that's how it started. Started with like 3 pots. And it ended up being 7, 8 and a braai,
Wow.
years later. But it started with like a few people, was less than 20. But at the peak, we were serving around 150 to 180 people
Wow.
for
A day.
lunch. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So when did you have to wake up to prep?
So Makwenya, like you have to be up very
Yes,
early. Half past
yeah.
4, the fire must be going. So we'd wake up around 4, just to get the fire going and stuff. And once everything has started, then I can then get ready for school, you know. But during the school holidays, obviously, then I stay on the whole time with her or over the weekends. But yeah, so it's something that we did very early in the morning. By 9 o'clock, we're done.
Yes,
Then we
yeah.
get on to something else, especially if it's the weekend. Then we do fish, which we fried fish, which would be from around 11 until around 2, because everything went so fast because
Fast,
everybody
yes, yeah.
knew, you know, what we were doing. But during the week, it would be after Makwenya, it would be then prep for lunch up until around 11:30. Then she then leaves to the spot where we serve lunch.
So are you still an early riser? I know there's this perception that successful people wake up early and start their days early so they have more time. Are
Yeah.
you still an early riser?
I think I sleep less hours now than I used to before. But yeah, I sleep very early in the morning and I wake up early in the morning.
So what's early for you?
You know, on average, I'll go to bed at around 1. But by 5:30, 6, I'm up.
Sure. So
Yeah.
you get on with 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah, you know, lately, you know, that happens. But sometimes, you know, you get a gap in the afternoon where you're not doing anything that you can take, you know, a
can
nap
take a
for
nap.
about an hour or so. But yeah, I find that, you know, the older I grow, I sleep less. Maybe it's, you know, stress and worrying about, you know, what's the next thing, you know?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And you followed the same path as your mom. So she started, you know, her cooking business, catering business.
Yeah.
Was it difficult to convince her that you also want to be a chef?
It was very difficult. At some point, she didn't speak to me for about 3 days. So,
I was thinking you're going to say 3 years.
No, 3 days. So, and my dad came to the rescue. But the funny thing about that is, so my dad didn't like the idea that I'm in the kitchen with my mom, and you know, as a last born, you know, I'm more close to my mom than anything else. So my older sister and my brother didn't care much about cooking. They didn't even want to help. You know. Now I was forced in a way, you know, but my dad didn't like the idea of me being in the kitchen. And I remember what he said was, kitchen is not a place for a man, you know, but that's how it was perceived back then.
Yes, yeah.
So, but I carried on. So I didn't necessarily think it was going to be something that I do as a profession.
Yeah.
I wanted to become an engineer. And the plan was that, you know, throughout, you know, my primary and high school days, but you know, things happened, and we were displaced during, you know, the 90s when there was political violence in
Yes,
Alex and
yeah.
all the townships, and we lost everything, you know, our house and everything. So we had to then start rebuilding our lives, and all of the money that was saved for me to go study engineering was then used to start over.
For your life.
So,
So is that at that point where you guys were staying in San Copano?
yes,
yeah.
yes. So I had to work for 2 years after matric to
Yeah. So
like
did the
in-
house burn down?
No, it didn't. So we had to leave. We had to leave because people were being killed left, right, and
Yes.
center. And then that's when we then were put in churches and community halls and all of that. So so my mom said, you know what, let's work for another, you know, year or so, and then try and get, you know, at least money to register for the first year. But we found out that we didn't save enough, and the fees keep on going up every year, as you know. And then so I'm like, okay, let's do the second year. And then we did it. But then I realized, you know, people that I finished matric with are now going on to their third year now. And I'm still, you know, stuck and I've been focusing on just doing engineering. And I
Yes.
wasn't, you know, looking at other options.
things.
But
Could
then
you really see yourself as an engineer today?
Yeah, I like,
Really?
yeah, I would say. But yeah, obviously things, didn't turn out that
Yeah.
way. But then when I went down to Durban to visit my friends that were studying there, I was like, you know what, let me have a look at other, because I can see that this is never going to happen. And I don't
Yeah.
want to, go another year without, starting something. And then I started looking at other options. So I think the question that I asked myself was, what is it that I enjoy doing and that I think I could be good at? And, cooking came to mind because I've been doing it, ever since. So then I decided, without telling my mom, I went into the food and nutrition department. I got information on what, course I can take, and they were very happy with my experience and everything that I, already know.
Yes.
And I signed up for catering management. And when I came back, I told my mom that, you know what, I signed up for catering management because, engineering is getting more and more expensive. And I think this is the next thing that I would, pick.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, no, no. I want an office job for you.
Oh,
You're
wow.
never going to make money cooking and being a chef. So don't tell me that,
Yes.
We'll make another plan, but I can't allow you to do something that you're never going to make money off. And my dad, who was not supportive when I, started out, was the one that said, you know what, is it something that you think that, you want to do? I'm like, yeah. And he says, do you know that you have to live with the consequences of
Your
this choice?
decision, yes, yeah.
And I said, yeah, I'm ready. Then he was like, nah, don't worry. I'll speak to your mom. And he managed to convince her. And and the rest is history. I started out at Natal Technicon, and and those 3 years were a breeze for me because I really enjoyed being in the kitchen, and I didn't care what my friends were mocking me, and when they see us in uniform, and at that time because it wasn't popular,
Yes,
so we're
yeah.
talking about 96. So, they always used to laugh at me and like, yeah, you took the easy route out. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. Do what you do your accounting and this
Did
and that.
whatever, yes,
It's
yeah.
fine. I'm good with this. But, I was at my happiest when we were in class, learning about stuff, but obviously building on already what I learned from my
Yeah.
mom. So it was fun. One of the, if any period that I can rewind would be my
That period in
tertiary
your
life.
life.
Yes.
So at what point did your mom eventually say, son, well done, I'm proud of you? Or has that moment not come as yet?
No, it has
Yes.
a number of times.
So share
Firstly,
one instance, yeah.
yeah, and I think I would share the earliest because that's where she was doubtful. But when I started appearing on newspaper articles and telling her that, I've got, a part scholarship, based on my results at school, and I already secured a in-service training position at the Hilton, and the Hilton had just opened in Durban at that
Yes, yeah.
time. And when she started seeing the accolades and the certificates, and she was convinced that I could do this. But also, yes, at that time things were not really like showing,
Yeah.
but just those little things, convinced her that I can actually make it in this industry. But then see me on TV was the
Was
cherry
the
on top.
clincher.
Yes, and
Yeah.
and one thing for my dad, who was the one that actually got this into motion. My first overseas trip, he was still alive at that time. I was on my way to Dubai and then on to Turkey. So I was doing a promotion in Dubai. And then after that, I went on to Turkey for about 8 weeks and came back. That's when he was like, yeah, no, something is happening, and then he was happy, to see me, do that. But yeah, I think the proudest moment was, being on TV and my mom seeing me on TV and actually sharing, that screen time with her, talking about our interactions and our story and my inspiration. So, yeah, man, she's still proud even now.
I'm glad. And so when you were starting out at the Hilton, did you ever imagine yourself that one day you'd be called celebrity chef?
None of that. None of that.
And at that time, there weren't any celebrities.
Nah. Well, they were, but then they were, overseas,
Yes, yeah.
So I think my biggest goal was me running my own kitchen, my own unit at a hotel with my own staff. Maybe having a team of 50 or 60 chefs under me. That was my ultimate goal at that time because, I wasn't open to other things that you can do, I think that period that I spent at the Hilton was, where I was grinding a whole lot more. And that's where, I solidified my foundation. I was there for almost 7 years. But in that 7 years, I got 5 promotions. I got to go overseas 5 times.
Yeah.
Was chosen to do like promotions, for SA Tourism, and the Department of Arts and Culture, doing South African promotions in a number of countries here in Africa and in Europe. I missed out on the Japan one, and I still haven't been to Japan. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
Okay, I guess it's bucket list.
Yeah. So that's where I grew a lot, and that's where I got and gained a lot of confidence. But I think one thing that made me stand out from my peers at that time, I enjoyed doing live cooking, like show cooking in front of our guests, but also interacting with them. Sharing information, also finding out more about what they like and stuff like that. So I enjoyed being in the front line more than being behind the kitchen, behind the wall that leads into the kitchen. But I just love doing show cooking and just interacting with guests, and I guess that gave me the exposure and the confidence to also do it in front of cameras or do it in front of a group of people.
And that's not very common with chefs. I just thought of one weekend we spent in the Midlands. At Hertford House. And whenever they do a dinner service, the chef always comes out, and takes you through the dish that is being served and all of that. Yeah. The one time we had, there was this young lady. Literally, she could not get away quickly enough. She was like, went through everything as quickly as she could and back into the kitchen. I guess for some people, that's their comfort zone. So when were you out of your comfort zone, and how did you manage that situation?
So remember, I left Joburg to go study in Durban, and my tertiary years were, the best.
Yes.
So now come graduation, everybody that I know from school now, everybody, gets back to their different lives and carry on with now their professions. And a lot of the people were from Gauteng and Northwest and the Western Cape, and everybody left. So now I'm left there on my own with, Durban people. But I was like, I'm not ready to go home yet, and I had already secured a placement at the Hilton after my training. So I thought, let me stick it out and see what comes out of this. I'll give myself a year or two. If things don't work out, then or if an opportunity comes up in Joburg, I'll go back to Joburg. But, that time I ended up spending 11 years in Durban in total, with including my years at Natal Technikon. So I didn't have a lot of friends, so a lot of my time was at work. So I remember I was a breakfast chef for 2 years. So I'll do my shift, starts at 5 and ends at 3. But then because I have nobody to go back home to and nothing to go back home to, just my flat, and I'll be bored. So I volunteered my time to say, I want to learn what happens for dinner service and when there's banqueting and when there's special events. So I availed myself to try out a whole lot of things. So I think volunteering also helped me out in a lot of ways, where our chef was like, okay, there's commitment here, and it's not saying I'm looking for overtime. I just want to kill that time I was going to just sit and do nothing, but instead, better myself. And I think that worked out for me. So I got to know, what happens in the next position, what are the responsibilities, and I'll take on those responsibilities without, stepping on anybody's toes. They know that I'm not available like, what's the English word? That I'm not eligible for that position, so they're not feeling any threat, So, but they will show me, okay, this is what I do. So I'll go with the chef de partie, or like, okay, how do you make orders? How do you, make sure that the sections and all the departments are in line and all of that. So they would take me through all of that. And when it's nighttime and there's a carvery, I'm like, okay, I'll carve, because I don't have to be in the back.
True, yeah.
And a lot of chefs always like you said with the young lady that you were talking about, the fact that they're always behind the scenes and they don't take responsibility for whatever that comes up, whether it was directly related to them with the dish that they prepared or not. But the senior chef would be the one always going out and talking to guests, but only when there's problems. So
Yes,
I wanted to work against that, to say, be confident with what you're offering to the guests and, talk to them, try and get rid of problems before they even, come up,
Yes,
be able, be proactive, be able to see and spot things, but if you're always in the back end relying on the waiter to come and tell you that this and that is wrong, and rather you be the one that goes to the guest, give them the right information, because the waiter doesn't, know exactly what goes into the dish. So I think that's also what set me apart. But in those years where I started then growing in positions and opportunities that were available, was because I also volunteered my own time in order to grow myself and, get a whole lot more knowledge than what was, offered to me, and that changed the game. That changed the game.
And what
for me.
has been the biggest failure? Like it could be career or just in life.
Yeah.
What's the biggest failure you had to deal with?
I'll tell you times where I felt very depressed. So here I am growing in, my field, and, whenever I'm at work, I'm seen as this example of a chef that, is growing, up the ranks and all of that. But obviously the money in chefing is not that great, and I look at, people that I went to school with and look at them, in their current positions, and, they would come over. Some are like, CEOs, some are, senior managers, some run
some
projects.
politicians.
Yeah, some are politicians, some are doctors, some are married, they always come down, when there's conventions or whatever that is happening. They're staying at the hotel. I see their success. I see what they're doing. They come like, yo, hey, plus we know the chef here. We went to school together. And, I look at the times that I've been happy was when I was, with my kitchen people and people that are doing the same thing as I'm doing. But once my friends come down to Durban and they're having their things, yes, we have fun and stuff. But then I go home depressed and looking at my life, and I'm like, I'm still renting a flat. I don't have a car, I'm not earning much, and here these guys buying cars, and they've started their lives, and I'm like, maybe
And they're living it up.
Yeah, and I'm like, maybe I took the easy way out, and now it's not bearing fruits, But those were the times that I get depressed, and when I also come up to Joburg for holidays, so we used to get specials. I'll stay at the Hilton. Yeah, but when I look at, they have to come fetch me at the station, and I still didn't have a car. Yes, I would be living the life, but I'm like, when comparing myself with my, my friends and people that I grew up with, I felt like I'm not getting there, But as soon as I get back into my environment, everything changes. I'm the same old, bubbly person that's like, progressing. And then I realized that, comparing myself with other people, will always yield such results, that, everybody's doing something that's different and that's unique to them. So it doesn't mean that it's going to translate, to what you're doing because you went to the same school or you know the same people. You know what I'm saying? So I stopped comparing myself to other people and concentrated on what I'm doing and what's going on for me. And I think that's where I found my happiness, and I was content with, how things were. And yes, obviously you aspire to, get more money and be in higher positions and be able to, be like everybody. But that started happening slowly when I committed to, you know what, this is me and this is my life, and I have to make the best out of this situation. And and
do you
things
think
started happening.
do you think you're successful now?
I think that I did good. So far, looking at where I was and the things that I've done and achieved, I think that I have, changed a whole lot of things, and how people, look at themselves,
Yeah.
and obviously as a person you want to do more for a whole lot of people, but sometimes it's materialistic things. But in terms of inspiration and looking at where this guy comes from, what he's been able to achieve, some people take a leaf out of my book to say, let me follow, his advice, in my own space, to see if this is going to work for me. And I've met a lot of people that, tell me about how listening to me and watching, my stories and progression has helped them find their own way, So yeah, I in that sense, yes. But like I said, I still want to do more. I still want to do things that, I see myself as having made it.
Okay.
You know?
And your definition of success?
I think, comes with first happiness in what you do, and enjoying what you do. And, having said, I realized that, at some point I wanted to be here at this point, but I look at where I've been from, imagining being at a point A, but now I'm at point K, and have seen, a whole lot more things happening that have, elevated my, not necessarily status, but also position in life and achievements, and I'm like, once you get to that point where you expect it to be, at some point, but you exceeded that point already, but then you also realize that there are other goals now that you can aim for. But I'm just happy that, everything that I started out, wanting to do, I've exceeded most of those things. So I think that, in a way is success, in my book.
Okay, I'm glad. So we have a feature called the Fire 5.
Yeah.
So just quick fire questions.
Okay.
Which I suppose
I like those.
Pun intended in your case.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine dining or braai?
Braai.
Okay. What would you do if you were given an extra hour in the day?
Yeah, I would drive more.
How did you say sleep?
Nah, I would drive more. I love driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Which president did you enjoy cooking for the most?
I would have to say Cyril, because I've done it 3 times and at different positions.
Yes.
Okay, so I've done it at a gala dinner, where everybody was sitting down here in Mzansi. I've done it at a shisanyama in Pretoria.
Yes.
That's, informal type of, setup, which was great. And, he enjoys like a lot of traditional food and ujile papa le chakalaka and like lovely bride meat. And he was very happy. And then 2019, I did a dinner for him in Switzerland, in Davos, at the World Economic Forum.
Yes.
50 heads of states. That's the highlight. I've cooked for presidents overseas. But for him, I have 3 examples that are not the same. Okay. So I would have to say Cyril.
Okay. Do you believe in ghosts?
No.
Okay. And how many tattoos do you have? And which is your most recent one? I see you already have a sleeve.
Yes, no, I have both sleeves covered and part of, So the number is I don't know, but I started in 2006.
Yeah.
and it's still carrying on.
What's your most recent one?
My recent one is on my leg, which it's more like color shading because I love a lot of color. So I just did that about 2 weeks ago, which I posted on my socials. So I'm going to go for another session next week to do the flowers before I go on holiday. But yeah, there's still more. So I'm going to cover my back also and then go on to, my thighs and stuff. So I think the ultimate goal is being like the Yakuza.
Wow.
Like, covering every part that you can cover, and leaving the parts where if it's inappropriate for you to rock up, with ink, that I'll be able to cover those. But yeah, nothing on my neck, nothing on my face.
I was about to say nothing on your face, yeah.
Nah. But still carrying on, more tattoos to come. Yeah.
And so what is it about tattoos and cooking that
So
describes who you are as a man?
nothing about cooking. So it's more about stories. So
Yes.
I'll tell you, there are very few tattoos that I would then, try and check out designs to say, okay, this is a design I want. Where my philosophy has always been from my first tat, I went to the artist. So my first one was in Madagascar. I went to the artist. I'm like, I'm not sure what I want to get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, tell you my story and what I do and, things that I like. Let's have a conversation. After that conversation, then you do a piece on me that, summarizes our conversation.
Yes, yeah.
And that's about 70% of my tats. I have a
So I
conversation.
could write a whole book with
Yeah.
each tattoo on your body.
Yes, there are a whole lot of stories, but it's the interpretation of me talking to somebody that I've never met before and how they would then translate it into art. Yeah.
And what kind of legacy are you leaving behind? Or what would you like to be remembered for?
I'd like to be remembered for somebody that went for it. Somebody that, went for something that they loved and they committed to it, through all the negatives and the positives, they pushed on, to say, this is ultimately what I want to be remembered for. This is something that, I believed in and I worked towards making it work and a success.
Yeah.
But yeah, just self-belief, and really going for what you want to achieve, despite all the, the hurdles and the negativity and all the challenges that you might face, we always look at, if I ended up doing engineering, I'd be this place or I'll be doing this, but you never know. I think we're meant to be where we're at the, our present moment. And this was what was cut out for me. And I'm doing the best, to embrace that. And I think the earlier you do that, the better, but I'm just living my life enjoying, everything that comes with, the cooking and food as a foundation. There are a whole lot of things that came up from the, I never thought I'd be on TV. I never thought that I'd be, doing the shows that I'm doing, but also being involved in a whole lot of things that I'm involved in. And I think everything that I do, I try and put it, mix it with what I love doing. Cooking, has to do with rhythm. I love music.
Yes.
I love art. Cooking has to do with art. And cooking has to do with exploring. I love traveling.
True.
Hence I say driving, because I think whenever I'm driving and I'm alone in the car, that's the most freedom I'll ever get. I go wherever I want to go, as fast or as slow as I want to go. I'm the DJ. I play my own songs and whatever that I want to listen to, but that's me time that I always value a lot. Hence, driving is getting to places and exploring, meeting new people, and that has to do with food. So I combined all of those things that I love doing, that I enjoy doing, and put it into one. So to me, they go hand in hand, and that's just making things comfortable and as easy as possible to me. So, and that's why I'm very comfortable whenever I'm cooking.
Okay.
And
what does the next chapter hold for Benny?
A string of restaurants. But yeah, I've always wanted to have, an outlet where, I could serve, my food to the public.
Yes, yeah.
I, have very few people that have experienced my cooking, and a lot of them have seen it, on TV, but never got to taste it. And the lucky few are the ones that I interact with, often that, get to taste, my food more than once. Farah hasn't tasted my food, and she's been my manager for
Wow.
since forever. But so the plan is to do something that speaks to our people. So I'm not looking at fine dining. I'm looking at everyday type of food that are served in a way that people will come there for a celebration. When we were growing up, going out was getting KFC or chicken licken. Or any like fast food that you can get in and coming back and having that at home. But, a lot of people would want to, experience, an environment where they can sit, have good food, but feel like, they did something out of the ordinary. But then they, the experience that they got, would fulfill them, would refuel them to work harder to get more of those experiences. So I want a place where you serve, our type of food, the type of food that South Africans enjoy, as individuals and also as family, but food that tells our story. But in places, small towns, I don't want to mention a lot of franchises that have, but in all of these places that we have all of these fast food outlets, we have something that serves our own food and not a name that is synonymous with South America and this and that and that, and it says it's a family thing. Yes, a family dining environment that serves South African, our favorite dishes, but also, things that we can have conversations about. Remember this, remember so-and-so when he ate this, and that type of environment. But like I said, in more of those smaller places where people don't have access to, big restaurants in cities and stuff. So, having about 400 outlets like, out there, and then moving on to Africa, that is my goal. That is going to happen. I'm working hard on it, and a place to go to eat where there'll be stories told, and people reminiscing. Good. Yeah.
Chef Benny, it's been a pleasure having you. And sharing your tasty stories.
Yeah, I got plenty of those.
So if you've enjoyed today's interview, please make sure that you like, you comment. Don't forget to subscribe. And of course, share today's interview with your friends and family. And I'm sure you'll have something tasty to talk about.